All right, let's dive into this stuff you found about economics and mortgages.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Excerpts from this MBA report,
Okay.
and then some audio from their chief economist, this guy Mike Friend, at a conference.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he's talking to all these default professionals.
Interesting.
So we're going to figure out how all this, the economy's messing with the housing market
Okay.
for homeowners and buyers and, anybody in that mortgage servicing world.
Right.
Oh, and we're going to uncover some surprising trends about who's actually servicing most of the mortgages now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's all connected, isn't it? The economy and jobs and housing.
Exactly. It all kind of,
It all works together.
yeah, it all feeds back into itself.
Yeah.
So the MBA report suggests this economic slowdown might be even worse than people thought. What really jumped out at you from the report?
Well, I thought it was really fascinating how the slowdown's hitting different places differently. Like, the Gulf Coast is struggling, but the Midwest is kind of holding steady. So that's really valuable if you're dealing with real estate.
Yeah, no matter what you're doing, buying or selling or whatever.
Exactly.
That's a great point.
Thanks.
And to add to that, Friend mentioned in his presentation that even though the Fed cut rates, the 10-year Treasury yield actually went up.
Oh, wow.
That's not normal, is it?
No, it's pretty unusual. Usually when the Fed cuts rates, investors go for the safer stuff.
Oh, like bonds.
Yeah, exactly, which pushes those yields down.
Okay.
But this time they went up, so it seems like there's not a lot of confidence in the long-term outlook of the economy. And this rise kind of messes up those affordability calculations because, the 10-year Treasury yield, that's the benchmark for mortgage rates.
Right.
So rates might not actually drop as much as everybody was hoping.
Oh, so that's going to affect anybody who wants to buy a house or refinance.
Pretty much, yeah, even just managing your money month to month.
It's all connected.
It is.
Okay, let's switch gears to the job market.
Both the report and the presentation talk about some, weakening.
Yeah.
Fewer jobs open, lower hiring rates, and even more unemployment claims.
It's definitely a change from all that job growth we had.
Big time. So I'm wondering about how that's going to impact those mortgage delinquencies,
Yeah.
especially for FHA loans. What do you think?
Well, the MBA report shows this surge in delinquencies, especially for FHA loans.
Really?
Yeah, they're at levels we haven't seen since like 2013, 2014.
Oh, wow.
And, FHA borrowers, they often have lower credit scores and more debt.
Right. So they're more vulnerable when the economy dips.
Exactly.
So if you're an FHA borrower or thinking about it,
Yeah,
you really need to understand all this.
for sure.
Okay, now here's something else I found really interesting from Friend's presentation.
Okay.
Apparently, there's been a huge change in who's servicing most mortgages in the U.S. Independent mortgage bankers, or IMBs, they're now doing most of it nationwide.
Wow.
Can you explain for our listener, what are IMBs and why is this such a big deal? Sure. IMBs are basically lenders that aren't banks, and they focus on making and servicing mortgages.
Okay.
So the shift away from the banks, especially for FHA loans, that could have a big impact.
Yeah.
It could affect everything from how mortgages are serviced to what kinds of loans are even available.
Wow, that's a lot to think about.
Yeah, we got to keep an eye on that.
For sure. Speaking of things to watch, let's talk about insurance costs.
Okay.
Friend was really serious about this in his presentation. How rising insurance premiums from natural disasters are making affordability even worse. Some homeowners are seeing their premiums jump by like 100%.
Oh my gosh. That's a huge increase.
It is, and it's not just a small problem. It could actually prevent people from owning a home.
Especially in places where there are a lot of natural disasters.
Exactly. And we got to think long term. If homeownership gets even harder, what does that mean for families trying to build wealth and be stable?
Right. It's like one economic problem just leads to another and another.
Yeah, like a domino effect.
Exactly. Understanding all these connections is really important for making good decisions about the economy.
Whether you're a homeowner or thinking about buying or even a professional in the mortgage industry.
It's all connected.
It is. Yeah. It can be a little overwhelming, when
Definitely.
you look at all these problems.
Yeah.
But Friend's presentation wasn't all bad news.
True.
He did talk about some potential good things for the housing market.
Yeah.
What were some of those bright spots?
Well, one key factor is demographics,
Okay.
The millennial generation, they're the biggest generation ever in the U.S.
Right.
And they're at that age where they're buying houses.
Prime home buying years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even with affordability being tough, Just their sheer numbers create demand.
So even though things are rough,
Hmm.
now we've got this huge group of potential buyers coming up.
Right, exactly. And remember we talked about rising inventory earlier?
Yep.
That's actually good for buyers.
How so?
Well, more homes on the market means less competition.
Oh.
So buyers might actually have some power to negotiate.
Instead of 20 offers on every house.
Exactly. And this could even lead to home prices going down a bit.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, it would make things more affordable for more people.
Okay, so instead of crazy competition and super high prices,
Yeah.
maybe things will balance out a little.
Hopefully, yeah. And while we're talking about variations, Friend also pointed out some interesting regional differences. Like home prices are kind of weak along the Gulf Coast, but the Midwest and Northeast are seeing more stable growth.
So location really does matter.
It always does.
If you're looking to buy, it might be a good idea to look beyond those super popular markets.
Yeah, you might find some hidden gems with better prices.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got demographic demand, rising inventory, and maybe some regional variations.
Right.
All helping buyers. What about refinancing? Any good news there?
Well, Friend said the refinance market is kind of episodic,
Okay.
driven by when interest rates dip.
Like that little burst of activity last September?
Exactly. Rates fell for a bit and everyone jumped on it.
So there might be more chances to refinance and lower those monthly payments.
Yeah, if you're thinking about refinancing, keep an eye on those rates. Even a small drop can save you a lot of money over time.
Right. A little bit can make a big difference over the life of a loan.
Definitely. And we talked about those FHA delinquency rates.
Yeah, they were pretty concerning.
They are, but the good news is foreclosure activity hasn't gone up too much.
So even though more people are behind on payments, we're not seeing tons of foreclosures.
Not yet, at least. And Friend mentioned that more borrowers are using forbearance.
Which gives them some breathing room.
Exactly. It lets them get back on track financially.
So it seems like servicers are working with borrowers to find solutions.
It seems that way. And it's important to remember that most homeowners, they value their homes and want to stay in them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a big deal financially and emotionally.
For sure.
Speaking of servicers, Friend's presentation gave some insights into their business side, too.
Yeah, he said the first half of 2024 was pretty good for the servicing industry.
How so?
Larger loan balances and slow prepayment speeds are keeping MSR values up.
What are MSRs?
MSRs are mortgage servicing rights.
Yeah.
It's the value of the right to service a mortgage loan and collect fees for doing it.
So it's like an asset for servicers.
Exactly. So even with delinquencies rising, there are some things helping servicers out.
Interesting. But Friend also said that servicing non-performing loans is way more expensive.
Right. So as delinquencies go up, servicers have to find ways to manage those costs.
It's a tough balancing act.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They have to support struggling homeowners, but also keep their own businesses going.
It sounds like a really tough situation.
It is. They need to plan carefully and make smart decisions.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today.
We have.
Economic slowdown, job market, worries that FHA delinquency issue the change in who's servicing loans, and those crazy insurance costs.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But it's not all doom and gloom, right?
No, there are some positives too, like demographic demand, rising inventory, and opportunities to refinance.
Right. We have to remember that the economy is always changing.
Yeah.
What's true today might be different tomorrow.
Exactly.
So that brings us to the big question. What does all this mean for the future?
Well, predicting the future is always tough.
Well, yeah, but based on what the MBA is saying and, Friends' expertise, what are some things we should be watching?
Well, one of the biggest things is what happens with those FHA loans.
Right.
Like, are we going to see a ton of foreclosures later on, or will borrowers be able to bounce back?
Yeah.
A lot depends on whether the economy can get back on track.
Right. And if unemployment goes down.
Exactly. It's not just the economy itself, though.
Right.
It's also how the government reacts.
You mean like what Friends said about HUD and FHA maybe cutting staff?
Yeah, exactly. That's a big concern.
If those agencies don't have enough people.
It's going to be hard for them to process loans and deal with delinquencies and help people buy affordable homes.
Especially with everything so uncertain right now.
Definitely. We need FHA running smoothly right now.
Any changes could have a big impact.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got the FHA situation, the economy in general. What else? Well, the insurance thing is a big unknown.
Yeah.
If those premiums keep going up, it could make it impossible for people to buy homes.
And it's not just homeowners?
Right. It affects builders, investors, lenders.
Everybody.
Everyone in real
You
estate.
have a huge problem. And then there's that whole shift in who's servicing the mortgages.
Right.
With the IMBs taking over.
It could be bad. We'll have to see.
Yeah, will there be new types of loans? Will servicing change? How will this affect the whole mortgage market?
So many questions.
I feel like we're ending this deep dive with more questions than answers.
Uh-huh. Maybe. But isn't that what a deep dive is all about?
Sure.
We found some surprising trends, some potential problems, but we also found some opportunities, some signs that things might be okay.
So the main thing is that it's complicated and it's changing all the time,
And like you said before, knowing what's going on is super important.
especially in a market like this.
So for our listeners out there, I think the big question is, what does all this mean for home ownership?
Yeah, is it going to get even harder for the average person to buy a house?
Or will we find new ways to make it more affordable?
Good questions to think about.
Definitely. And if you want to learn more, check out the MBA website. They've got tons of great resources and research. It's always good to be in the know
Absolutely.
and be ready to adapt. Make decisions that work for your own situation and goals. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another one.